There's just a lot of uncertainty out there. So I think it's a great topic for us to chat about a little bit, because managing to uncertainty is hard. It's not easy.
There's a good understatement.
Well, I had to go on like a whole rant just to end it with one firm statement.
A very accurate statement. Yes, uncertainty is hard. When we think about uncertainty in a lot of different ways, I think, so what do we know about anxiety, the word anxiety in general? Where does it come from? Where does anxiety actually happen? It's really the fear of future unknowns, right? It's a future event that we're unsure about, that we're worried about. And that's basically what anxiety is, right? And if you think about even growing up in school or when you go to the doctor, what's generally the biggest concern? It's like, oh, I took a test. What's my grade? The anxiousness is about getting the grade. Whether you pass or fail, you don't really care as much about. Doctor's appointment, you get waiting on a test back, you're waiting on the result because you want to know what to do next. If it's good or bad, you can start to make a plan. So when you have uncertainty, it leaves you just with this, like, I don't know what to do next feeling. Give me some sort of answer so then I can make a decision. So that does create a lot of that angst and that nervousness and that anxiety around that, which is hard.
It is. And we like certainty, right? Certain is comfortable. Certain, and you talk about this all the time. People are always drawn to comfort, what's comfortable. We like it. And when you start dealing with uncertainty, you get uncomfortable because we don't know if things are going to go the way we expect them to, or that they have in the past. It's like when you're walking and you're looking down and you're focused on the steps right in front of you. You might feel really good about like that next step because you can see it, but you can't see anything around you. And so there's a lot of uncertainty.
Those things, and I have some thoughts too, but I'd love to hear yours on how to deal with that. Like, because uncertainty is going to happen. As you said, we're in it. We're in the midst of it right now. What are some of the things that you like to do?
I think one of the most helpful things anytime I'm dealing with uncertainty is creating perspective and stepping back, trying to color in the picture a little bit better. I find when you're dealing with uncertainty and you're dealing with the emotion that comes with it, which is really what I would argue is what you need to manage to, because we can't manage to external, right? External is what it is. It's all about how we interpret that. So it's all subjective. And if we step back, we can eliminate some of that subjectivity. We can get a little bit more objective. And to me, that's one of the best things we can do. So I would say a pause, a process, right? Give myself a chance to process and remove myself a little bit from the feelings that I'm getting from the uncertainty. So that's a big one. Number two for me, Doc, is simple. If I'm starting to get some of that, let's call it nervous energy, that's generally gonna come from uncertainty. Like for sure, for me, I tend to be a high anxiety person by nature. So when I deal with uncertainty, it drives anxiety. I do look for ways to channel it. So you'll see me put a little bit more into the physical activity or the meditation. For other people, that might be spending more time and getting away, taking that vacation that was overdue and stepping back a little bit. For others, it might be, hey, I'm going to step into the risk. That's how some people manage it, right? There's a little uncertainty in there. They embrace it and they step into it, and that's okay too. We all have different ways of managing to it, but channeling some of that energy in a way that's going to help me, get it off my shoulders is a big way for me to manage to it.
So have some good coping strategies in place, I'm hearing.
Yeah. So you want to put it in a simple statement, coping strategies. That's exactly it. Adopt a coping strategy.
And I like what you said about perception too, right? Like, because we have this thought, uncertainty is certainly going to happen. There's always a chance that anything we do, there's going to be some uncertainty. Because we can't predict anything 100%. So we always deal with uncertainty really every day. We just don't think about it a lot of times because it happens in a lot of ways that we just go with probabilities, right? I don't expect it to happen, so I don't even think about it. But when we have this big pieces of uncertainty, we're talking about like the market, what our jobs are going to look like. The best thing you can do is be prepared. Now, there's a quote from probably a classic movie that you all have seen, Academy Award winning, great actor, Steven Seagal, Under Siege 2, Dark Territory. Top of everyone's list of movies, I'm sure. But there's a great quote in there that says, chance favors the prepared mind. And what he meant by that idea was like, have a plan in case things go wrong, right? Like have that, just be prepared for the situation. And if it happens by chance, you're already ready. So prepare for things, prepare for what you think would happen. You don't have to come up with every scenario, but have some good preparation around, okay, am I saving enough? Am I putting myself in good position if these things happen? And then if they do happen, you can push through it because you've at least give it some thought and have a little plan around it. So just a little bit of that preparation. It doesn't have to be doomsday preparation. It doesn't have to be a preparation for every single situation, but you take some of the top possibilities, and you create a plan around that. So that way, if you do wind up happening, that you're prepared for it. And I know you love that movie, so don't laugh at me.
Hey, you know what? I was just struggling. I got a little blurry there. I couldn't decide if the wine was starting to hit me or if my video camera was all screwed up. I guess it was the wine because it was the video camera. That quote actually reminds me. I'm pretty sure it's a Boy Scout, maybe even an Eagle Scout quote, which is prepare for the worst, expect the best. Yeah, put the mindset right. Expect that things are going to work out, but be prepared. Be prepared in case they don't. That way you can manage to it. To your point, have a plan in place. There's something really solid to be said about that. Somebody else said this too, very similar quote, which is, think about the very worst thing that could happen, the absolute worst case scenario, and improve upon it. Right? What's the worst thing that can happen here? Okay, how can I improve upon it so that the worst thing that happens isn't that bad?
And I like to even add a little bit to that is I don't always think we have to think of it's good to know if the worst thing happens because the reality is it generally is
almost never
lower probability, right? But beyond just the worst thing that happens, just think about some of the things that can happen. And it doesn't always have to be the worst because there's also good things that can happen. So we can balance that out a little bit, right? Because if we're only focused on the worst, we lose sight of all the good that could also be happening at those times too. So like most things, there should be some balance. Let's prepare for if the worst thing happens. Let's prepare if some other thing that's not great happens. But let's also, what's our plan if something goes great or if it takes a rebound or if it goes in totally other direction? What's the plan for that? We talk about the stock market and things like that, not financial advice by any means, but we have the idea of what happens if it tanks? Okay, well, what happens if it shoots up? Are you in a position to take advantage of that as well? So if you're doing that preparation, you have a little bit of plan around it. It doesn't matter which direction it goes. You're ready for both ways, but you're not also just doomsdaying yourself. You're also thinking about some positive outcomes that could happen too. And that helps balance some of that anxiety.
And that is always solid financial planning advice, whether or not you're trying to give it. It's just risk-based planning. You put it in a plan that allows you to manage to risk in different environments and be balanced so that you can, no matter which way the market goes, you can perceive it as an opportunity. But it's amazing. I chuckle because like we're always on, the same wavelength in our conversations. The third thing that I always do is try to look at it as an opportunity. When we're dealing with uncertainty, it doesn't have to be bad. It doesn't have to be a problem. It could be an opportunity. When things are uncertain and when people are running scared, that's when it can really pay to be contrarian. It can really pay to, take a stand or take a stance that's a little different than what other people are doing. And it's a great way for you to look for real opportunities because that's when opportunities do arrive. When things are consistent and stable, it's harder. Honestly, it's harder to find opportunities. It's a lot easier to find opportunities when things are a little shaky. That's where the greatest risk and reward comes into play, and it proves itself out over time. So uncertainty can be a great opportunity, and if you take that mindset into uncertainty, it can really change the way you're responding to it.